Hello friends, welcome again the environmental awareness course. Now third chapter, ecosystem. This is the one of the important chapter in the environmental awareness. As you know about that the ecosystem, biotic and the abiotic. So in this producer, consumer, decomposer, etc. So we will first look at the structure of the ecosystem in order to appreciate the input, productivity, transfer of energy, food chain, food web, nutrient cycle and the output, degradation and energy loss. We will also look at the relationship, cycles, chains, webs that are created as a result of these energy flows within the system and their interrelationship in nature. These are the two main components, the living biotic and the abiotic non-living. A.G. Tansley coined the term ecosystem in 1935. Interaction of a biotic and abiotic components results in a physical structure that is characteristic of each type of ecosystem. So the types of ecosystem in the biosphere, ecosystem may be defined on the basis of nature, duration and size. So the natural ecosystem operates in the nature by themselves without any human interfere. For example, a pond, a lake, a desert, a meadow, a grassland, a forest, a ocean, etc. Artificial ecosystem maintained by man or man-made. For example, cropland, orchard, garden, aquarium, etc. On the basis of a duration, the ecosystem natural and the artificial, aquatic and terrestrial, the fresh water, marine water, in the terrestrial ecosystem, grassland, desert, forest, etc. So these are the flow chart of the ecosystem. So on the basis of duration, temporary ecosystem, these are the short term ecosystem, maybe a natural or a man-made. For example, rain-fed pond. Permanent ecosystem, self-supporting natural ecosystem that maintain themselves for a long time. For example, a lake, a forest, a desert, etc. Size. On the basis of size, small ecosystem called micro ecosystem. For example, the large ecosystem, macro ecosystem, an ocean, a forest, a desert, etc. So the ecosystem, abiotic components and biotic components. So the abiotic components, the climatic factor, for example, rain, light, wind, temperature, soil, minerals, etc. So the biotic components, producer, consumer, decomposer, in the producer, in the consumers, the primary consumers, secondary consumers, these are. So now the structure of the ecosystem. The structure of the ecosystem, abiotic component and the biotic components. So the abiotic component classified into three groups: physical environment, light, temperature, water, soil, etc. Inorganic nutrient, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, phosphorus, etc. Organic components, carbohydrates and proteins. The biotic components includes all living organisms can be grouped into basic components. First is the autotrophs. It includes all green plants which from radiant energy from sun manufacture food from inorganic substance. Heterotrophic include non-green plants and all animals which take a food from arthropods. They are divided into a producer, arthropods. These are the arthropods organisms that are capable of a photosynthesis. They are primarily the food producer. They make food for themselves. Algae, other hydrophytes, grass, on the field, trees, on the forest. So look at this diagram. The consumer heterotrophic. Heterotrophic, those living members of ecosystem which consume the food synthesized by producer. By produce are called consumer. This category includes all kinds of animal. There are different classes of consumer: primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer and parasite scavengers. The primary consumers, these are purely herbivorous animals that are depend for their food on producer or green plants. For example, rabbit, deer, cow, buffalo, goat are some of the common example Herbivorous of ecosystem are named as a key industry animals. Secondary consumers. These are carnivorous and omnivorous animals which feed on primary consumer and producers or both. For example, sparrow, fox, crow, snake, etc. Tertiary consumer. These are top carnivorous animals which feed on other carnivorous, herbivorous and omnivorous animals. For example, lion, tiger, vulture, hawks, etc. Scavenger and parasites. These are the parasitic plants and animal which make use of the living tissues of different plants and animals. The scavengers use dead remain of animal and plants as their feed. The next is the decomposer and transformers. These are the living components of the ecosystem. Decomposer and transformer help to maintain the dynamic structure of the ecosystem. The decomposer attacks dead remains of a producer and consumer. Decomposer degrade the complex organic substance into simpler compound, whereas the transformer change the organic compound into inorganic forms that are suitable for reuse by the producer or green plants. For example, fungi and bacteria. So these are the diagram of the ecosystem. So the function of ecosystem. The function of ecosystem are as follows. It regulates the essential ecological process, supports life system and renders the stability. It is also responsible for the cycling of the nutrients between the biotic and abiotic components. It maintains a balance among the various tropical level in the ecosystem. It cycles the mineral through biosphere. The abiotic components help the synthesis of organic compounds that involves the exchange of energy. The food chain. This is the structure of the food chain, food web and ecological pyramids. These are one of the important parts in the ecosystem. The transfer of energy from the source in a plants to a series organism by eating and being eaten constitutes a food chain. At each transfer, large proportion of energy is lost in the form of heat. These food chains are not isolated sequence but are interconnected with each other. This interlocking pattern is known as the food web. Next, the food chains. The most obvious aspect of a nature is that energy must pass from one living organism to another. When herbivorous animals feed on plants, energy is transferred from plants to animals in an ecosystem. Some of the animals feed to other living organisms while some feed on dead organic matter, the latter from the detritus food chain. At each linkage in the chain, a major chain usually has only 4 to 5 such links. However, a single species may be a link a large number of species. Food webs. And in an ecosystem, there are very large number of interlinked chains. This form a food web. If linkage in the chains that makes up the web of life are disturbed due to the human activity that lead to the loss of extinction of species, the web breaks down. The ecological pyramid. The use of ecological pyramid was first described by the Charles Elton in 1927. Ecological pyramid are graphical representation of the number of individual present or amount of biomass synthesized or amount of energy stored at a successive tropical level in an ecosystem. Ecological pyramids are starting with producer at the base and successive tropic level forming the apex is known as the ecological pyramid. The types of pyramid: pyramid of numbers, upward, downward, pyramid of energy. So the pyramid in numbers, graphical representation of a numerical strength of various population in different tropical levels per unit area of an ecosystem, usually upright, inverted and spindle shape only in some parasite foods chain and tree ecosystem. Pyramid of number in the most ecosystem, the number of individual generally maximum at the producer level. The number of carnivorous is lesser than the herbivorous. The pyramid, this is the pyramid's numbers. producer, herbivorous, carnivorous. So these, the grass, insect, lizards, hawks, pyramid numbers. This is the pyramid of numbers. The pyramid number of a tree ecosystem is spindle shape, and the pyramid of number of a food chain is inverted. Pyramid of biomass. The biomass is the local weight of living matter per unit area. In terrestrial ecosystem, biomass decreases from the producer level to the consumer level. So the pyramid of biomass of a terrestrial ecosystem is upright. This is the pyramid of biomass in terrestrial ecosystem. Pyramid of biomass in an aquatic ecosystem. The pyramid of biomass of aquatic ecosystem are inverted always. Pyramid of energy. In an ecosystem, energy from flows of the producer level to the consumer level. During energy flow, 80 to 90% of energy lost at each tropical level. Only 10% of energy is transferred to the next tropical level. Therefore, pyramid of energy is always upright. Pyramid of energy, these are the producer, herbivorous, consumers, etc. So the types of ecosystem, the terrestrial ecosystem and the aquatic ecosystem. Forest, in the terrestrial ecosystem, forest, grassland, semi-arid areas, desert, mountain, islands, and aquatic ecosystem, pond, lake, wetland, river, delta, marine, etc. So, thank you very much.